Sacramento legend in. All right. My main man from way, way back from the Sacramento Bee. And he's still doing his thing. He still looks as young as he did when he was covering me, man. It's my guy. Joe Davidson and Sacramento Bee. Joe, what's going on, man?
Kenny Caraway, how are you, sir? James Ham. James, let's just get this right to the point. I really liked Kenny's mother when he played high school basketball back in the day. Not so much Kenny, but no, I'm just kidding. Uh, Good to join you guys. Look at you, James. You got the big glove behind you. You got the catch with Dwight Clark, and
Yeah.
you're a basketball guy. So that's versatility. Kudos.
Oh, I love football. I love baseball. Baseball's always been my first love. Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah.
I feel like I can come to you for anything. Like you know anything. So we're just real quick. I know
I don't
we
know, man. You were talking about gambling, so I can't help you there. I just
well, I will say this though. I think you have an understanding of like this whole gambling bill being passed. Like what's the deal with that here in Sacramento at the casinos? You know anything about that?
I don't. I
Oh,
don't.
I guess I can't ask you anything.
I mean, you can do just about anything. So what are you guys hearing?
Well,
We got the new casino in Elk Grove. Is that what the topic started with?
yeah. I went to Sky River not once but twice yesterday, before the show and after the show, and I did all that, Joe. Not even really to gamble. I gambled like $9 total. And
Because he's a man of the people. Just went there to sign autographs and take selfies.
Kiss babies
it's baby,
Yeah,
you know.
kiss babies.
in a
You know,
casino.
exactly. James Ham is brought to us by Pabst Blue Ribbon. I see. Nice.
Oh yeah, you like that? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Joe, how have you been? Like, are you gearing up right now for the high school sports scene? I know we got Friday night football here at Bear
Yeah.
River coming up on this week, and that's got to be like your main focus right now is just gearing up for high school sports.
Oh man, it's heavy duty. I was just talking to my editor and my friend Jim Patrick, and we've done so many stories. We did a top 25 capsule on each of the top 25 teams leading up to opening night with Folsom as our number one team. Storylines, themes, trends. We got a referee shortage. What's up with that? I know why we have a referee shortage. Is the season too early? Geez, Kenny, I think when you played in high school, if you went to watch the football team, they didn't play until at McClatchy. They didn't play until after Labor Day. And
yeah,
now we're here at August, 19th for the season opener, and so there's those kind of things. But yeah, James, totally gearing up. And Kenny, the high school football has never been more popular than it is of late. And we didn't have a season in 2020 with the pandemic, and last year it came roaring back. And I'm talking sellout crowds in everywhere, whether it's up in Lake in the Pines, Grass Valley, where James is, Kenny Caraway. The city schools had some sellouts. Up in the foothills, Placer County, Oak Grove, it's the thing to do, and the activities directors have done a great job promoting it on campus. The bands are involved, the drumline. I mean, it's awesome, and we have powerhouse teams. We have teams that are just happy to go 5 wins and 5 losses. And it's neat to see the numbers have come up, which is good because football's not for everybody. It's hot. Look at these practices and the weather. I've been talking to some coaches where we got a story next week. Tackling has been dialed down on the high school level for several years, and a lot of schools don't even tackle at all. And so, well, how can you do blocking and tackling if you're not doing tackling? They'll do some drills, but it keeps you more fresh. And you can last longer, especially if Folsom High School's been our number one team. They don't tackle at all. They'll do some drills and a lot of repetitions. Like that's a far cry from years ago, maybe even just 5 years ago.
right.
Troy Taylor at Sacramento State, we don't tackle either. We'll have goal line situations. We'll do that, but it's anybody who's on scholarship football probably should know how to tackle, block, and tackle. It's not always the case in high school, so it's kind of that fine balance. You don't want to run these guys into the ground. It's going to be 105 degrees today. You got to be smart. But the days of no water in practice, 2-a-days, hit until you can't see straight, those are long gone. It's over,
Yeah.
and it's a good thing.
I agree. I agree absolutely. And one of the things you talk about how big high school football here is in the Sacramento region. Like you said, they just love high school football. They always have. But another big part of that is you got some really good teams, and not just locally good teams. You got some regional, national good teams. You got Folsom, who obviously is the creme de la creme right now. But what other teams are possibly competing on that state level, like that could go down to LA and bring home a state championship or maybe get ranked nationally? What other teams in the area are on that level?
Folsom's the top dog. They've been our preseason number one ranked team at the Sacramento Bee every year since 2012. It's amazing.
Wow.
And they used to, Folsom in the 2000s struggled to win 2 games in a row. And then Troy Taylor took over and said, we're going to recreate an offense and start doing the spread offense and get the ball to your quickest players. And he runs the same offense at Sac State, and they won the last 2 Big Sky Conference championships. So Folsom's the top dog. Everybody's chasing them. Granite Bay is a team that has won a state championship. In 2012, Joe Catalico is the coach there now. That's a team that expects to get in a section championship. And anybody who's wins a section championship goes to a regional bowl game, Southern California championship or Northern California championship. So that's your main goal. Rockland was 12-1 last season, made a real run, and then Folsom derailed them. We've had smaller schools get to state bowls, including Placer up in Placer County, and Del Oro has been in a state bowl winning in 2015 and almost winning in a repeat in 2016. And so those are different enrollment schools. Do we have any city schools that might do that? Not that I know of. And that's the same case in the Bay Area, same in LA. There's a big concerning gap on the haves and the have-nots. You look at Oak Ridge up in El Dorado Hills or Granite Bay or Rockland or Elk Grove, they have signage everywhere. You get some of the city schools of San Juan Unified School, they don't have any signage. They don't have any backing. And so they're on fumes. So those teams you hope can hang on. Johnson High School is an old Metro League rival of Kenny from your McClatchy days, has a new field. The district gave them a new field. So it keeps hope there. And alumni coach. For as many storylines as the heavyweight programs, you also are as curious as the city programs. Grant High School is the only team in the Sac Joaquin section to win a state open division championship. That was in 2008. That's the highest classification. Grant led the area in wins in the 90s and the 2000s, has dipped in recent years, went 0-9 last year, but still have some monstrous players. I think they're going to be right back into it. I think it'll be a playoff team. They had a kid yesterday, Alani Noah, who just gave a verbal commitment to USC, 6'4", 320 pounds, good student, good family. So they still have players.
Right.
At that size, and he can be a bouncer on the weekends if he wants. He's pretty good. So we have linemen who are getting recruited. We got quarterback skilled players. We got Rico Flores is a national recruit at Folsom receivers going to Notre Dame. Walker Lyons is a tight end for Folsom who's going to Stanford. Simi Pale is a big 300-pounder for Elk Grove who's going to Stanford. So you have to be a heck of a student to even get into that school. So we got guys, and we got guys in the NFL as well.
Yeah.
You said something there. Are you sure that Grant was the number one team in the 90s?
Most wins in the region in the 90s and 2000s, it was Grant.
Okay, they won more than my Nevada Union?
Yes.
Are you sure?
It's
got to be like 2 games.
It'd be probably pretty close. But no, they did. They had the most wins in the whole section in the 90s and the 2000s. And, let's talk about, Nevada Union was a great powerhouse up in Grass Valley and has dipped considerably. Why is that? Well, the enrollment's been cut in half.
1,500 kids this year.
It used to be 3,000 students, and that's a lot. Somebody said, well, what's the big deal? Well, that means you have 1,500 fewer students walking around that might be guards, tackles, and linebackers and whatever. So football's better when Cordova's relevant, when Nevada Union's relevant, when Bear River's relevant, and when Grant's relevant. It just is. Those are traditional programs. And a school like Cordova, which led the nation in victories in the 1970s, the loss of the Air Force Base there, declining enrollment, coaches coming and going, that's hard to sustain. You got to have stability. And if you don't have stability, all these ranked powers have on-campus coaches and administrators who get it. And we have some schools who have principals who, I'm not kidding, who don't even know who their team's playing on a Friday. Do we play Friday? Well, yeah, football's a pretty big deal. So the schools who are successful have big enrollment, big numbers, supportive community, but it also comes with pressure. There's a lot of pressure at Folsom and Granite Bay and Oak Ridge and Rockland. And, you don't win. These parents are on you. And these parents, You got to have parents to have kids, certainly, and you need their support, but you don't need the grief. And that's a huge reason why the referee numbers are in serious decline across the country, because these parents aren't acting like adults. They're just out of control. And I talk to referees all the time, and they love doing it, but they don't need the grief. I mean, Kenny, when you played high school basketball, I don't remember people chasing after referees in the Metro League back in the day. Now we see it in baseball, youth sports, high school football. It's nuts.
You remember it was Mike Greenwell that like started screaming during his son's little league game, and that was so long ago, and it became such a huge story. And now it's all the time. Right. It was like it's all the time. You see all this craziness. I may have yelled at a ref in a soccer game before.
Over the weekend. A youth football coach gets gunned down.
Come on, man.
After referee. Yeah, and that's chaos. It shatters lives. And Del Campo High School in this region had a baseball playoff game in back in May, and it was a bang play to end the game. And Buhawk Colony of Atwater was the team that lost. Some of the Buhawk fans chased the umpires into the parking lot, and guess what? Everybody's got one of these, and so they videotape it, and it becomes viral. And it's just a disaster. And some of the logic, why do you have to attack referees? Well, they need to make better calls. Well, or you can grow up and act your age. And so that's a problem. And so what's going to happen, guys, is the Referees Association is pleading with area schools, can you please consider a Thursday night game or a Saturday game so we could spread it out a little bit? That's easier said than done. We're used to Friday night football. Communities are. Thursday night means you got to shorten your practice, but it's going to be a necessity. Otherwise, you're going to have shorthanded crews, and shorthanded crews means you're going to miss some calls. And this whole notion, you guys know sports. Everybody at every game, youth game, high school game, college game, Kings game, they're all convinced that the referees are out to screw.
Oh, yeah.
If you're sitting next to a Laker fan, well, they're thinking, oh, no, they're out to get us. So we got to get past that. And there's no bias. They don't have an agenda to hose that school. They're doing the best they can, and they need people to lay off. Yeah. Or go out there and stretch, hydrate, and go officiate the second half if you guys you can do better. I know Kenny can do it. I know James can do it, but do you want? We don't need to do it.
I'm not taking no mess though. You talk crazy to me. I'm teeing them up in basketball. Well, they don't really have any punishment. I'm throwing a flag in football. Actually, I'd be the exact opposite. I'd be real lenient. I'd be like, come on, what are you doing now? Calm down.
Hey, Kenny, I got a story I want to share with you and James. So Pete Carrell just died. The late great Pete Carrell. I got to know him pretty well when I was covering the Kings. And there's a neat hook with McClatchy High School and Harvey Tahara and Pete Carrell. So about 7-8 years ago, Pete calls me. Hey, I've been reading in the B. You've been writing about this Harvey Tahara, this basketball coach who coaches the girls, and he's a fundamental old school kid. I'd love to see his practice. Sure. So I call Harvey Tahara, and as you know, Kenny is a class coach, great boys coach, great girls coach.
Yeah.
And Harvey said, "Come on by." So we went by, and here's Pete Carrell just kind of shuffling along, and get these two great coaches, and they're talking about what they're doing. And Harvey, it was his last week of practice before retirement. And so Coach Carrell said, can I put the girls through some drills? And he did, and they were fundamentally sound. Two-handed chest pass on it. And he stopped and he goes, you guys are superbly coached. Be fortunate in who you have. And it was a neat moment. And I drove him back home and all that. So that's the kind of guy that Pete Carrell was in basketball for all the lessons at any age.
Yeah. He just a legend. And stories like that, when he just not only coached for the Kings, but endeared himself to the community, to the city of Sacramento. That's why you saw such an outpouring of love for him the other day when it was announced that he passed away. So we'll definitely
national loss. Yeah.
Joe Davidson, Sacramento, be here with us today, man. Joe, you got a little time, and can you hang a couple more minutes? All right, man, cool.
It's brought to you by Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Or McQueen and the Violet Function, or ACR Roofing and Solar. Either one, take your pick. So week 0 starts on Friday. The big one, obviously, is Folsom and Monterey Trail. Monterey Trail has been knocking on the door for the last few years. They've been right up there. I know they lost a couple of their studs. Did they replenish that roster, that program? Because I know they've got a junior program that I know produces talent that they just feed them all the way through.
Well, and Folsom's amazing. It doesn't, yes, the people are frustrated with Folsom. Some of the opponents. I did a story about 4 or 5 years ago where the rest of the Sierra Foothill League said we need to get them out. They are uncommonly good. They get an inordinate amount of transfers. We want to get them out. And all the coaches were on the record. And, you can't just move a team out. What you got to do is close the gap. And so last season, Rockland hammered Folsom in a regular season game. And then Folsom got them back in a section championship rematch. And Granite Bay also beat Folsom. So they finished third in their own league and then stormed through and beat De La Salle, first area team since 1978 to beat De La Salle to win a NorCal championship. Didn't win the state championship, but have all the pieces to win their 5th state championship all since 2010. It really, the main ingredient is the youth feeder program. These kids grow up wanting to play there. They also get a lot of transfers. A lot of kids are going there and their parents because they want to be on a bigger stage. And that's not the coaches recruiting them. It's not the athletic director recruiting them. We'll hear rumors and gossip. It's not true. They're not driving around in a school bus saying, load them up. And so I'm not a big fan on transfers. I think you ought to go to your neighborhood school in high school sports. If you transfer for athletically motivated reasons, you could sit out 30 days or a whole season. I think that's a big that's a big price to pay. I talked to a lot of parents and fans over the years where they want to know, hey, I have a kid who the UCLA coach is saying that, if you have more touchdown catches, we'll recruit you. Not true. That's a fib. The college recruiters don't have time to break down who your opponent is and, what kind of film, all that. They want to see film where the guy's making a big play or his closing speed, or he just looks the part. And you got to have grades. If you don't have the transcripts, you're going to be a junior college guy. So Folsom is still the heavyweight, big target. But Monterey Trail is a team that's been in section finals, and they're refreshing because they run the ball. Is that allowed in high school football at any level? So they run the ball with a veer. We got smaller schools like Dixon, Winters, East Nicholas, Bear River, Colfax that are on a smaller stage, but it means just as much. And the bottom line is, you guys know this. If you're a player, it doesn't matter where you play.
Right.
If you're a player with grades and incredible film, you're going to be on a radar. You don't have to go to modern day De La Salle or Folsom to get recognized. That's a big myth. I remember in the 1990s, the big theme was, if you don't go to Jesuit, you cannot get a scholarship. Not true.
Right.
Not true. It wasn't the coaches saying that, usually the boosters and all that. So football in general is really healthy, and it's safer than it's ever been. There's less tackling, and it's never been more popular. Is there too many games, 15, 16 games? Yeah, I can see that argument, but not everybody's playing that. Bear River's not going to play 15 games.
No, 11 if they can.
Yeah. That 11's the goal.
Yeah. And, I remember one of the big transfer stories here in Sacramento was when Chad Elliott left Nevada Union and went to Grant. But I think the interesting thing for me is to watch the declining enrollment everywhere. So like Bear River was a powerhouse. They even won a section championship a couple of years ago.
Right.
But they're down to 540 kids to start the year, the school.
It's amazing. And Colfax is the same. Both of those
25 kids on the football team.
Exactly right.
Like,
and
it's
so
crazy.
Bear River opened in 88 or 89.
88, 89, yeah.
And by the early 90s, they were a statewide power at the small school level. Terry Lowe, great coach. They had 1,300 kids. Now they're at 500, 600, all-time low. Still a great school. Still doing well in sports. Colfax opened in 58, 59, 60. Went to a bunch of section championships, one state championship in girls basketball. Probably 1,000 kids was their high water mark, probably 500. The fact that they keep winning is testament to these amazing coaching. These kids grow up wanting to play there. But it's not easy playing football with 22, 25 guys. And everybody's going both ways. And that's not a problem at a lot of the ranked teams. Folsom, you had 65 guys.
We had 55 on almost every team I played at Nevada Union. 54, 55, 56.
Maybe they have 25, 28. And minor magic is still a deal. And I remember that Chad Elliott. It's probably the biggest transfer. He wins 2 section championships as a sophomore, junior at quarterback. And he has a run. He doesn't get along with the coach, Dave Humphers. And so he says, I'm out. And he goes to the number one rival at Grant, shows up. He's the right kid. Hey, I want to join the party. And they like, you're the enemy. Do you even know how to do anything outside of deception handoffs. Great senior year, 1996. I think he had like 50 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, great numbers, won a state section championship, played in college. Chad Elliott will still remind me on social media or anybody who's listening that he's the greatest quarterback to ever come out of this area. So, well, Jake Browning was really good and blah, blah, blah. So he's got a good spirit about him.
Aaron Garcia.
He never lost his, exactly. He never lost his confidence, not an ounce.
Yeah.
That's
Joe,
right.
I want to make sure that we touch on Sac State football before you get out of here. But before I do that, I have to ask the question that everybody wants to know. Yeah, we talked about Folsom. Yeah, we talked about Monterey Trail. We talked about Rockland and all this other stuff. Look, man, the people really want to know because they're telling me. The people want to know. I'm talking to the people on the streets. I was at Sky River yesterday, and they was telling me, ask Joe Davidson this. Is McClatchy going to go back to the playoffs for the second straight year? That's what everybody's buzzing about right now. That's what everybody wants to know.
The quick answer is yes. So the McClatchy Lions opened in 1930-something and made the playoffs last season for the first time since 1996 when they got boat raced by Chad Elliott and the guys.
I never saw a playoff game in McClatchy. I was from 97 to 01. I never saw
you missed the good years. And they got a good coach. They got good numbers. They played 12 Bridges. And we're like, what's that? That's a new school in Lincoln up in Placer County. That's their opener. Good coach, great athletic director. I really like Rob Fiker, the former football coach there. So we talk about, is the season too long? Should we maybe shorten it? Maybe not have as many playoff teams? Well, a school like McClatchy, hey, man, getting in the playoffs was everything. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Paul Doherty about that just today, and he's the Folsom coach, and he coached at Sac High a decade ago. And he said in 2012 or so, he goes, Sac High Dragons, with poor facilities and not a very good field and all kinds of challenges. And they get the 15 seed and they play at Del Oro. And he said, we're going to make it a big time thing. So they rented a hotel, the Holiday Inn in Rockland, and they stayed the night before. And he goes, it was our Super Bowl. They got clobbered and used, but there's a handful of those kids from that Sac High team who are now teachers and educators because of that experience. That's why you play the games. And they don't remember. I mean, they know they lost to Del Oro, but they just remember probably running down the hallways and cannonball into the pool. But that's, a lot of schools were so used to the playoffs, all the ranked teams we talk about. But a lot of schools like Sac High or McClatchy, it means everything just to get in, to get. Yeah,
man. Friday nights at Hughes Stadium, just the setting for my high school experience. I used to they never won. They get smacked every time, but man, you talk about Friday nights at Hughes Stadium.
And they're still playing at Hughes. It's a great venue, and kudos to that. It's a historic venue, and so the Lions are still there. So we'll have to go check out a game. People
absolutely, that for sure. Joe Davidson from the Sacramento Bee rocking with me and James Ham right now on D-Lo and KC. And Joe, I wanted to talk to you about Sac State football, nationally ranked. Again, this is the second straight year. I think they were preseason top 10, or I think last year was
second year, right? Yeah,
this year top 10. We talk about the Kings schedule came out today, and they got these national TV games. Sac State gonna be on ESPN 2, I think, in October. I think they're about as big as it can get in their conference. Obviously, the 2-time Big Sky winning conference, but that FCS, like they're big time right now.
They are big time. And also this year, Troy Taylor, the homegrown kid, Cordova High School, Cal Berkeley quarterback, Folsom football coach. He's the best coach I've experienced in football over all these years. His organization, his big picture thinking, and it doesn't run him into the ground, and just. They do amazing things, and so they've won the last 2 Big Sky football championships. No season in 2020 with the pandemic, so they won it in 2019. Won it last season. I think he's 15-1 in Big Sky games. Amazing, and a lot of local recruits, creative, fun offenses. FBS football is not to be confused with the big boys of Alabama and USC, but it's a great level of football. That includes UC Davis, which won a conference championship in 2018 and went to the playoffs last year under Coach Dan Hawkins. And last year was the only time or the second time in the history of both of those programs, Sac State and UC Davis, where they were both good at the same time. Mm. And the last time was 1988. Both went to the playoffs in last season. It's good for area football and area in general that they're both relevant and they're both. And I think those two coaches, as long as they're there, they'll be a factor. Now, Sac State has not won a playoff game. They went 0-1 both times, which just shows you how good the FCS football is. And I think they'll make a real run. I think they got 14 starters back, so they're both going to be good. And Cal or UC Davis opens September 3rd at Cal, and so Sac State played at Cal last year, and it was a competitive game. Those games are by design for payout games, and I think you could get up to $400,000 in a check or $200,000 just to go down there. It used to be it's a body bag game. Well, these programs aren't body bag guys. They used to be, or had stretches of it. So the one thing that I'm puzzled about, though, Kenny and Jams, is what is it that Sac State fans want over this community? They don't sell out the games. They will for the Causeway Classic, the showdown against UC Davis, but you want a local coach, you got one. You want some local players, you got one. You want some national recruits from other programs, you got that. You want a winning product, you got that. So go out there and show up. It's a 20,000 seat stadium, so it's a lot. It's asking a lot. UC Davis sells out, but it's only at 10,000, and so hopefully the ESPN exposure helps. And I don't know if a lot of people know who all these Big Sky teams are. Like quick, James, what's the mascot of Northern Colorado?
Damn.
The Buffaloes?
The Bears. The Buffaloes.
No.
Yeah. Way to look to the side.
Wait, what is it?
The Bears, I believe.
I got it right.
Today they're the Buffaloes. Today,
Colorado State's Buffaloes, right?
Yes.
They're Rams. Colorado State is Rams. Colorado's Buffaloes.
And Colorado
there we go.
This season. So,
but Joe, to your point, I agree. I think that this thing should be a little bigger. I think people are getting used to it. Sac State hadn't been good for so long. All of a sudden they're good, and it's like, oh well, we got a good team to go watch and a good school to get behind and things of that nature. I want to go to Fantasyland real quick, John. I want you to tell me if it's fantasy, just complete fantasy, or reality. So the Pac-12 has just been destroyed, and they're going to be looking for members to pick. I joked around and said, "Well, Sac State went to the Pac-12." That's not happening. But say Sac State, or excuse me, the Pac-12 goes after Boise State or San Diego State or maybe even Fresno State or something like that. What are the prospects? Give me a percentage that Sac State would take Fresno State's place in the WAC. Like, how realistic is that?
Good question. And I think let's go in layers there, Kenny. I think it's pretty reasonable to assume that Boise State, Fresno State are likely, or San Diego State are likely entries into the Pac-12, and then a lot of it makes sense. Logistically, they got the facilities and all that, so I could see that happening. Now, as for Sac State, I did a story about a month ago when I talked to the two athletic directors from Sac State and UC Davis. They're perfectly happy where they are. And it doesn't mean they're not ambitious. It doesn't mean they're not chasing bigger things. But in college football, to move from the FCS to the FBS, you have to have continuous sellouts of 15,000. Sac State's not there. And before you could be even considered. And you probably need a stadium uplift. But I think down the road, maybe. I did a story back in the spring that Sac State baseball is a really good fit in the Big West, which has nationally ranked Long Beach State and Fullerton and all that. And they're in the Western Athletic Conference, which has teams in Utah and Texas. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah. So that's easier to do. They're already Division I,
right?
There. And it's why did UCLA and USC bail? Money. The television contract in their new conference is going to finance everybody, huge amounts of money, and college is so big on money, and it's almost disgusting. And now we have the NLI, the like list and images, and that's apparently seeping into the high school ranks. Let's hope not. I think they'll become more haves and have-nots, have a big gap. I would think Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State is more reality over fantasy for Pac-12, but Sac State jumping into the WAC anytime soon is more fantasy, and they're not even chasing after. I don't think these ADs are going to mislead me, but they still got more to win in the Big Sky and win there. Now in basketball, they're already Division I basketball for UC Davis and Sac State's in the Big Sky.
They need to get out of the Big Sky in basketball.
And they need an arena. It's
Yeah.
the worst arena in all of college sports at Division I. But if anybody has a deep-pocketed donor who wants to drop down $10 million, call the guys at Sac State.
Oh, well, I'll talk to Damien. He's got it. I'll talk to Damien.
Is that where Damien is right now? Is he fundraising?
He's just flying around somewhere. I don't know what
Did he forget about you guys?
He's all over the place, man. Yeah. He's going all over the place. Joe, man, this was so much fun. We talked about it a little bit through text. Like, let's do something like this during the season a little bit more, man. So you keep us up to date with everything that's going on, man. We appreciate you coming on for sure.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks, Kenny. James, good to see you.
Yeah, good seeing you too, man.
Joe Davidson, the Sacramento legend out here, man, coming on D-Lo and K.